Biden and Lula talked about the need to stop online disinformation and agreed to work together. And this is, when I go back to this coordination between the White House, the State Department, the Pentagon, the CIA, the NGOs, this is part of an interagency working group to control the internal politics of Brazil. And that money is still flowing. And it's not just USAID. They're the biggest money spigot. But I'll give you some other examples because I'm actually fascinated about something Nicholas just said about the fires. So here's just one.
Rob, can you zoom in a little bit, like even more? Does it allow you or no?
It doesn't look like it allows
it's all
me.
good. Go for it, Mike.
Yeah. So would you say the unions are more pro-Bolsonaro or pro-Lula in Brazil? It's a union candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing's unions. So here's a $12 million U.S. Department of Labor. That's my wallet, Patrick, your wallet, U.S. citizens paying $12 million to the unions in Brazil. So I'm gonna read some of these details, okay?
What?
12 million, yes, and this was granted right after the, I think the grant date for this start date was December 2022, right after the 2022 elections. It almost feels like a payoff for some reason. But here you go, let me read this, okay? So $22 million, $12 million given, you'll see, just so you know, you see the numbers here, right? This is on usaspending.gov. You can look this up publicly. It's still active. Brazilian unions, Lula's unions, are still getting paid by you and me. They are taking money from us. We are capacity building. And I'll read you the technical reason they say why. So if you go back two slides again, let's just read this, okay? The Bureau of International Labor Affairs at the Department of Labor. Direct financial support for workers organizing. Build cross-movement networks with civil society organization allies. Representing marginalized populations and mobilize. Increase capacity of worker organizations to organize, mobilize, and advocate on their own behalfs here. Populations and beneficiaries are in Brazil, workers and unions with a focus on Afro-Brazilian young and women workers. And there's tie-ins to the indigenous sects in Brazil, which the U.S. State Department made a very big play for, which sort of gets me to some of the Amazon fire elements here. But this is stock standard. We've been funding the Lula machine from every direction, from the State Department, from USAID, from the Department of Labor, from the National Endowment for Democracy Solidarity Center. Can I go off on this for a second? Okay. I mentioned there's 4 core fours for our top CIA cutout, the National Endowment for Democracy, which, by the way, and you can even, if you can go to my X timeline or you can look it up either way. This is a direct quote from the founder of the National Endowment for Democracy at their founding, that the reason that they were created was because the CIA used to get in trouble for running financial assistance to political opposition groups, and it looks terrible when the CIA is seen as subsidizing them. That's why the endowment was created. The National Endowment for Democracy was created so that the funding could be provided without CIA fingerprints on it. And so Ned has these 4 core fours that I've been talking about, right? IRI for the Republican side, NDI for the Democrat side. They have one for the Chamber of Commerce, basically business interests in a region where we do political dirty work. They will basically benefit in some way from the new government. The 4th one is called the Solidarity Center. It's the CIA's work with unions. The Solidarity Center's closest partner, by far and away, bar none, is the group that used to be known by Democrats in the 1960s and 70s who hated their partnership with the Central Intelligence Agency. They used to call it the AFL-CIA. It's known widely as the AFL-CIO. It's the largest union in the U.S. It has international branches that have served for 70 years as the union arm of the Central Intelligence Agency. When we go to topple a government, we always go for the workers. We always go because a government can only wield the power of its own industrial base. It relies on the mine workers. It relies on the transportation workers. It relies on the dock workers. It relies on the media and the hospital workers. If we can penetrate the workforce, we can cause the whole country to come to a standstill. And then the police are out of luck. The military are out of luck. They don't have hospitals working anymore. They don't have toilets working anymore. They don't have energy resources anymore. And so So the Solidarity Center, this gets its name from the Solidarity Movement, which was Lech Walesa. This was the Polish union group that liberated Poland from communism and during the Cold War. But that they were handed bags of cash by the Central Intelligence Agency during that process, and this was a blueprint that we do all around. Now it was done against left-wing socialist countries during the Cold War primarily, but now it's being done to right-wing populist movements. This is this boomerang that we're living in now. But the Solidarity Centers, basically, the AFL-CIO is the main arm of the Solidarity Center, and the AFL-CIO. If you can look this up before we get back to this grant, look up the AFL-CIO and who they named as Man of the Year. Yeah, 2019. Right
this
after.
This is a photo of people in the front of the legacy where he is in prison.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's right. Yes. AFL-CIO led that to get Lula.
What?
Yeah, the U.S. Union, who works with the CIA around the world in its international branches. Yeah. This is 2019. This is 1 year into Bolsonaro's term. They were grooming him for the task practically, and they are our biggest union. Now, hold on. Go to the Molly Ball article. Look up the Molly Ball article in Time Magazine, and I want to show you something really interesting. Time Magazine. You should put in right-wing fever dream or fortified elections. You may remember this. This is one of those famous articles of the past several years.
So is Trump just unaware of this at this time? Because this is still under Trump.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes. He got rolled by the National Endowment for Democracy. He got rolled by USAID, and that is why they are. Okay, here you go. The secret history of the shadow campaign that saved the 2020 election. You remember this?
Oh, yeah.
Can you hit Control? Actually, just scroll down. I believe it's scroll down, right below the fold. Okay, let me read this. There was a conspiracy unfolded. This is Time Magazine. They all admitted to this publicly. There was a conspiracy unfolding behind the scenes, one that both curtailed the protests and coordinated the resistance from CEOs. Both surprises were the result of an informal alliance between left-wing activists and business titans, also some right-wing internationalist Republican business titans. The pact was formalized in a terse, little-noticed joint statement of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and AFL-CIO. They had protests ready to go to shut down the U.S. government if Trump won in a fair and square election. You can look all this up. This was a blueprint that was planned out. You can find it on my X feed. I have it where we can go straight to the source documents. If you go to my X feed and you type in TIP and BLM, you'll see this. They had this whole thing planned out. They had, or just type in clear Trump win. Clear Trump win. That'll get you the two. Okay, or scroll down. Down to the source documents, or you can do like BLM will get you there too. Yeah, there you go. Scroll down. Yeah, right there. Okay, so actually, before I read this, if you click on the thread, you'll see the context for this. Yeah, right there. Scroll up a little bit, or up a little. Okay, all right, maybe it's different. Go down. You'll see I have on my timeline the clear Trump. But this is the Transition Integrity Project. Rosa Brooks, I think Undersecretary for Policy in Obama's Pentagon. They had got together with military intelligence officials and the former heads of both the DNC and RNC, Michael Steele, Donna Brazile, that whole network. They planned what to do in the event of, quote, a clear Trump win. This is scenario 3 here. Everyone can look up the source document. It's all over. I think I have the source link right there, and we can click on that right after this. But let's start here. A show of numbers in the streets and action in the streets may be the decisive factors in determining how the public perceives it. So what they talk about is leveraging the BLM protesters, because they did this in the height of the George Floyd riots. They said, hey, we're going to run this war game. If Trump wins, how can we still make sure, if he wins the election, how do we stop his inauguration? And look what they do in this war game. The person role-playing Joe Biden, who was John Podesta who was the one at the meeting who role-played this, says that they presupposed that the Democrats would be able to use Black Lives Matter street muscle as a destabilizing protest force and the union workers and the whole AFL-CIO network And that basically the recommendation, because this is going to come down to action in the streets, is that they need to better test the likely receptivity to a Biden call to take to the streets or a Biden campaign's ability to control these actors once mobilized. This is the BLM. Control the campaign's ability to wield them. And so what they propose is to build strong ties and to build strong ties and be responsive to BLM's demands. That way BLM will owe them a favor. They talk in this same thing, and you can click the hyperlink so you see. This is, I think, Boston Herald who reported this. They have the source document right here. Type Control F for clear Trump win. Yeah, here it is. This is the word plan. Yeah, and just click again, and you'll get to the second one. You'll see. This is what this all folded under. Okay, how to stop Trump from taking office if he wins fair and square. And what they called for was enhancing resources to the Black Lives Matter Black Lives Matter, which, by the way, is exactly what the Chamber of Commerce did. Remember those billions of dollars from big corporations? And then, lo and behold, there's this secret agreement which doesn't get published until months after the election. And who was actually the one who was going to be mobilizing all of these shut down D.C. protests? Oh, it's the CIA's top union arm, the AFL-CIO, who's behind the same thing in Brazil. And by the way, let me get the kicker here. I mentioned there's 4 core fours for NED, right? The IRI, NDI, Solidarity Center. You know what the fourth one is? It's called CPE, the Center for International Private Enterprise. You know what that is? That's the CIA's liaison to the Chamber of Commerce. The exact 2 groups, the AFL-CIO and the Chamber of Commerce, who teamed up, had an agreement published in Time magazine to oust Trump if he won the election in 2020, teamed up through the National Endowment for Democracy, working in Brazil, that ousted Bolsonaro. And if you remember, they were the ones who were training the judges. They were the ones who ran that whole network. NDI, they set up a whole coalition. It was called D4D, Design for Democracy, spun a spider's web around virtually every Brazilian institution around information control.
Patrick, I have a question for Mike. Can I do that? Mike, do you fear for your life? Because you are denouncing CIA and the whole scheme. Do you fear for your life?